Honest J. Nowak. Oh yeah. A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Honest J. Nowak. And now, aside from what I covered already about Spackle, there's still a few other things around that kind of relate to it, but I still feel like are just as quick to cover up with as Spackle itself was. I'm going to talk about sticky notes for today's episode, that is. So, similar to what I've already talked about Spackle, some of its problems is that sticky notes themselves, they can become pretty big traces of clutter, especially if you use a ton of them. And I do occasionally use a lot of sticky notes because I do want to keep track of multiple things in mind. Especially with how many episodes I tend to make, how many episodes will I be able to have overall every year that passes by, the kind of dates I'd have to write down because of when the certain programs in my channel start and when I have to plan them to end on. I'm pretty much just pointing out real quick that it's certainly a big thing out there that I would certainly want to take into effect right away. So at this point, let's probably just, I guess, worry about a lot of other things that happen. But I probably will say real quick about sticky notes is that aside from how useful they are in keeping track of multiple pieces of data that you could probably just keep within your mind, but then some people out there, depending on how good your memory is, if it's not as good as mine, then well, I mean, there's not too much out there to rely on. But of course, just like with anyone else, my memory is only capable of holding so much information. About 10 petabytes worth of info, that is, at max. Whereas the average would hold up to 2.5 to 3 petabytes at a time. So, I mean, of course, many people just have that enormous level of capacity within their hippocampus, but with the usage of things out there like notes, especially when it comes to sticky notes, with their pieces of paper with little strips of adhesive on the back that are sometimes applied, and of course that little stack of there, so that way you can keep them all together at once, and you can only print out one at a time depending on what you've got. When you're done with them, you can always crumple them up and have them recycled. At least that's how I would put it forward every time. Some people would probably throw it in the trash, but why would you do that when you can simply recycle it? It's as simple as throwing something away in the bin and doing that. But now, mainly when I'm talking about sticky notes, other than the fact that, well, it's already got its problems of, well, sometimes leaving a tiny bit of residue on our hands, and, well, the fact that sometimes it could lose its stickiness over time, depending on what kind of environmental, well, impurities are in the air. It could get stuck on the adhesive part itself. Of course, sticky notes do have some more purpose in them than we could ever have thought about. Aside from them being environmentally friendly, that we can simply toss in a recycling bin, and aside from them having some more, well, cleaner products used to make them. Especially when it comes to types of dyes that are used to, well, color them, depending on what kind of colored sticky notes that you'd use. Of course, there are different levels of dyes. But for anything else in terms of relation to how sticky notes are and how they seem to work in today's time, I can't really say too much about them, but they're not just, well, too practical here in today's time when you could simply pull up a note on a smartphone or a computer even and just simply have it typed in just to remind you about certain things out there, or to have something set into play based on a daily routine or otherwise. So now, I feel like that's just all I want to cover about on sticky notes, but of course there's going to be a lot of other things out there that I'm going to have to cover on as well. And I might not do it in the same format as I did with this one, along with the previous episode, which was about covering about Spackle and some of its problems and advantages, but there's some more out there that I probably want to figure out on. So if you want to see more good on my channel, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.